Title: Poor you, still working at that tiny firm. My ex-wife sneered at her wedding to her rich husband. Minutes later, her rich husband approached me. Sir, I didn't know you'd be here. Why not? I smiled. My ex-wife's face turned pale when she realized. Chapter 1. The invitation I wasn't supposed to receive. The envelope came on a Monday morning, tucked between utility bills and a pizza flyer. It was cream-colored, thick, the kind of paper you don't buy unless you're trying to impress someone. I almost tossed it in the junk pile, until I saw her name. Melissa Carter, my ex-wife. The same woman who, 5 years earlier, had walked out of our 2-bedroom apartment with nothing but a suitcase and a cruel smile, leaving behind a divorce decree and a pile of debts in my name. The same woman who swore she was meant for bigger things than a mediocre man stuck in a small firm. Inside the envelope was an embossed card. You are cordially invited to the wedding of Melissa Carter and Jonathan Reed. Jonathan Reed. I knew the name. Everyone in the city knew the name. Old money, property empire. The kind of man who could buy a sports team on a Tuesday just to have something to talk about at dinner on Wednesday. The invitation was addressed to Mr. Daniel Brooks. No +1, no warm note, just an obligatory invite, probably sent for show. I almost laughed. Melissa didn't want me there to celebrate her happily ever after. She wanted me there to see it. But the funny thing was, Melissa didn't know something. Something that would turn her perfect day into a disaster she'd never recover from. And by the time she realized, it would be far too late. Chapter 2. The Wedding Entrance. The venue was exactly what I expected. Grand chandeliers, marble floors, and waiters in crisp white gloves. Every detail screamed wealth and perfection, the kind Melissa had always fantasized about while we were eating microwave dinners in our cramped apartment. I walked in alone, wearing my best charcoal gray suit. Not flashy, but tailored, the kind that fit just right without shouting for attention. Eyes turned my way immediately, not in admiration, in curiosity. I could hear whispers ripple through the room. Is that her ex? Why would he even come? Then, like a shark scenting blood, Melissa's brother intercepted me. Well, well, look who showed up, he said, smirking. Why are you even here? She's moved on to a real man. Behind him, a few members of her new in-law clan chuckled. The condescension was thick enough to choke on. I didn't rise to the bait. I just smiled faintly and said, It's a wedding. Why wouldn't I be here? Before he could answer, Melissa appeared, dressed in a gown worth more than my car, diamonds dripping from her ears. Her smile froze when her eyes met mine. Daniel, she said, her tone sharp but coated in false politeness. I didn't think you'd come. Why not? I replied, letting the corners of my mouth curl just enough to hint at something she didn't yet understand. And that was when her fiancé, Jonathan Reed himself, walked up behind her, extending his hand toward me. Sir, he said warmly, I didn't know you'd be here. I shook his hand firmly. Why not? I repeated, this time locking eyes with Melissa. Her face lost a shade of color. She suddenly knew exactly why my presence wasn't just a surprise. It was a problem. Because Jonathan Reed wasn't just her future husband. He was my biggest client, and today was going to be his awakening. Chapter 3. The first hint of trouble. Jonathan's handshake lingered, his grip warm but searching. It was the look in his eyes, not of a man greeting a stranger, but of one connecting dots he didn't know existed. You two know each other? He asked casually, glancing between Melissa and me. Melissa's lips parted, but I spoke first. Oh yes, we go way back. Worked on quite a few joint ventures. Her hand twitched at her side. Business, she added quickly, her voice pitched high. Daniel's a small-time consultant. Jonathan's brow furrowed. Small-time? Strange. I was just telling the board last month how invaluable Daniel's firm has been to Reed and Company. Without his team's work, that acquisition in Paris wouldn't have gone through. The murmur around us shifted. People leaned in. Melissa's eyes darted nervously to the crowd. "Paris?" she repeated faintly. "You worked with Jonathan?" "Worked with him," I chuckled. "Melissa, I still work with him. In fact," I reached into my pocket and slid a sleek black invitation card into Jonathan's hand. "We're signing another multi-million-dollar deal this Tuesday. I was going to surprise you with the news at the reception, Jonathan." Jonathan smiled, clearly impressed. But when he looked back at Melissa, his smile faltered. She looked like she'd swallowed glass. I didn't stay to explain. Instead, I excused myself politely and walked toward the bar, leaving Jonathan standing there with questions forming faster than Melissa could answer them. From the corner of my eye, I saw him lean in and whisper something to her. She flinched, shook her head, and grabbed his arm. But he gently pulled away. It was subtle. Most guests wouldn't notice. But I did, and it was the first crack in the perfect facade of Melissa's new life. Chapter 4. The Champagne Toast. The reception hall dimmed as servers glided between tables, refilling glasses with golden champagne. The clinking of cutlery against crystal drew all eyes toward the head table, where Melissa and Jonathan sat beneath an arch of white roses. Jonathan stood first, smiling warmly at the crowd. "I'd like to thank everyone for being here today, to celebrate not just our marriage, but the future we'll build together." Polite applause filled the room. Then Melissa rose beside him, her diamond necklace glittering under the lights. "And I want to thank my incredible husband," she began, her voice soft and sugary, "for rescuing me from a life well, let's just say I've upgraded from small and struggling to big and thriving." The crowd laughed. Jonathan's smile tightened. I remained still, my glass in hand, until the room settled again. Then I stood slowly. "If I may," I said, my voice carrying easily in the silence. Melissa's eyes widened. "Daniel, I just want to toast the happy couple," I continued, strolling toward their table. "To Jonathan, a brilliant man, a visionary, and one of the smartest businessmen I've ever worked with. And to Melissa, who I suppose deserves some credit too." A ripple of amusement went through the guests. Melissa's knuckles whitened around her glass. I turned slightly, addressing the room. "You see, I've had the privilege of working closely with Jonathan over the past year. In fact, the deal we're finalizing next week, it's going to make his firm the most powerful in the region. And here's the funny part." I smiled as though sharing a private joke. It was Melissa's own actions years ago that set me on the path to making it happen. Jonathan's gaze sharpened. "What do you mean?" Melissa stammered. "He's just—" "Oh, don't worry," I said, locking eyes with her. "I'll tell you, but I think the whole room deserves to hear it at once." By now, every head was turned toward us. Even the band had gone silent. Melissa's smile trembled. Jonathan's hand slid off hers. The trap was almost ready to spring. Chapter 5. The Reveal. I let the pause stretch, the way a lawyer lets the jury lean in before delivering the blow. 4 years ago, I began, Melissa and I were still married. Back then, I ran a small but promising consulting firm. We were in talks with a major client, a deal that would have doubled our revenue overnight. But, Melissa, you remember what happened next, don't you? She shifted in her seat, her nails digging into her champagne flute. "This isn't the place." No, I said, my voice calm but carrying. "You leaked confidential details to a competitor, to the man you were sleeping with at the time. That little stunt cost me the deal. And our marriage." Gasps cut through the room like static. Jonathan's head turned toward her slowly. "That's a lie," Melissa blurted, her voice too sharp, too quick. I smiled faintly. "Then you won't mind if I show everyone the email you sent from your personal account that night. You used the phrase, 'He'll never see it coming.' And, well, you were right. I didn't see it then, but I see it now." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a neatly folded sheet of paper, a printout of the very email, complete with timestamp and recipient address. I placed it on the table in front of Jonathan. His eyes scanned it, his jaw tightening with each line. "Jonathan," I said softly. I think you'll also be interested to know that your new wife has been in touch with your biggest competitor. She tried the same trick again, but this time, she picked the wrong target. The silence was absolute. Melissa's chair scraped against the floor as she half rose, panic rising in her voice. You're twisting. Jonathan's voice cut her off, low and dangerous. Sit down. She froze, eyes darting between him, me, and the sea of watching faces. I took a slow sip of champagne. So, to the happy couple, may this union bring you all the trust and loyalty it truly deserves. I set the glass down and walked away, leaving the wedding's perfect facade in shards. Chapter 6. The Fallout. I was halfway to the exit when the first voice broke the silence. Jonathan's mother, elegant, cold, and the real power behind his family's money, stood up, her expression like granite. Jonathan, she said, eyes never leaving Melissa. A woman who sells trust for personal gain doesn't belong in this family. Fix this. Immediately. The murmurs turned into a low roar. Guests pulled out their phones, snapping pictures of the email, whispering to each other. A few of Melissa's friends got up and quietly left the table, unwilling to be part of the public wreck. Jonathan shoved the email toward her. Tell me it's fake. Melissa stammered, her hands trembling. It was years ago. Tell me it's fake, he repeated, his voice loud enough to make the entire room go still again. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Jonathan pushed his chair back and stood. We're done. Leave the ring here, and don't come near my family, my business, or my home. Her face crumpled. Jonathan. His mother waved to security, and two men in black suits stepped forward. One took her arm. The other quietly removed the diamond ring from her finger and placed it on the table. I watched as she was led toward the side door, the sound of camera shutters clicking like a metronome marking the end of her perfect day. Jonathan looked at me, his expression caught between humiliation and grudging respect. I wish I'd known sooner, he said quietly. You do now, I replied. Good luck. Then I stepped out into the cool night air, leaving the sound of a ruined reception behind me. Chapter 7. The Aftermath and Social Ruin. By morning, the wedding disaster was everywhere. Someone had leaked the footage, Melissa's face twisting in panic, Jonathan's mother's cold dismissal, and her escorted exit from the reception, to social media. The video racked up hundreds of thousands of views in hours. The captions were merciless. When you marry for money, but your past invoices show up at the wedding. From Mrs. Right Now to Mrs. Never Again. It wasn't just strangers commenting. Her own bridesmaids started quietly deleting wedding photos. People she'd once called friends unfollowed her in waves. Jonathan's high society circle iced her out completely. By midweek, her name was trending, not for beauty or elegance, but for scandal. Blogs dug up old rumors. Former co-workers spoke anonymously to the press about inappropriate relationships with clients. Her wealthy in-laws acted swiftly. The prenuptial agreement, ironclad, meant she left with nothing. No mansion, no luxury car, not even the designer dress she'd worn that day. She was seen 2 days later, stepping out of a rideshare, clutching a single suitcase. And then came the call from her own parents. I wasn't meant to hear it, but Jonathan told me later, Melissa, you've shamed us. Don't come here. We can't be associated with you right now. That was the final cut. No rich husband, no society friends, no family support. Meanwhile, my tiny firm, the one she had mocked, closed a major deal that week. Jonathan's company, ironically, was one of my newest clients now. And the best part? I never raised my voice, never chased revenge in the open. I just handed her the truth and let the world do the rest. Epilogue. The final call. 3 months later, my phone lit up with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Hi, it's me. Melissa's voice was thin, shaky. I wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I wasn't thinking back then. I could hear traffic in the background, the occasional gust of wind. No echo of a lavish home, no muffled chatter from a cafe, just emptiness. "I've been staying with a friend," she continued. "It's temporary, but I was wondering if we could meet for coffee, talk, maybe start over as friends." For a moment, I thought about the years I'd wasted believing she loved me, the public humiliation, the smug smile at her wedding. And then I thought about my son, how he deserved to see what self-respect looked like. "I'm glad you called," I said evenly. She exhaled, a flicker of hope. "You are?" "Yes, because now I can tell you directly. I don't ever want to see you again." Silence. Then a trembling, "Oh." Before she could speak again, I ended the call, and this time, it was my turn to walk away without looking back. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Tell us what you think about this story in the comments below. Like the story. If you think this story is justified, share it with someone who needs this energy. And subscribe to Lauren's story for more jaw-dropping tales of betrayal and justice, because here, every lie has its reckoning, and every betrayal finds its shadow. Stay sharp, stay strong, and stay tuned.